guys. Good evening. Happy Saturday to you, everyone. That means we're on a brand new master topic with kicking that off today. This evening, it's July 26, 2025. And this is, ladies and gentlemen, in case you did not know, the very last Saturday of July. So great to be with you. If this is your first time joining Inspirations for Your Life, well, a big warm welcome to you definitely right now. And if you have been with us many, many times, well, of course, I want to take this opportunity to, of course, welcome you all back. I think that's probably a very important thing. And when we think about, changes in our life, and we think about lots of things in the world, this show is here for you to help you to grow and to help you become a better version of yourself. Hey guys, if you have not had a chance to check out BelieveMeAchieve.com, what are you waiting for? Go check out BelieveMeAchieve.com after the show, that is. And you can also check it out 24 hours a day. And I think you guys will really enjoy, the content that I put out there. And I think most people don't understand the fact that, we always need to keep working on ourselves, right? And so tonight, I have a really great master topic, which we'll get to in just a moment. So again, a big warm welcome to everyone here. And ladies and gentlemen, in case you did not know, the master topic for this week is the power of connection. This is series 4, show 31, and episode number 1. So welcome everyone to another transformative episode of Inspirations for Your Life, the podcast that goes beyond the surface. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, it helps connect you to uncover timeless wisdom from modern living. I am your host, serial entrepreneur, podcast coach, engineer, video producer, graduate student, and so much more. And again, I'm very humbled to welcome you to the show. And also your companion on this journey to unlocking greater meaning, purpose, and of course, leadership in every area of your life. So tonight, I'm diving into a powerful ancient dialogue found in Genesis. That's verse 18:20 to 32, where Abraham stands face to face with divine justice, advocating for mercy. What can we learn from his courage, his persistence, and his sense of moral responsibility? These principles aren't, how can I say, just ancient. They're deeply relevant to the way we lead, live, and love today. Get ready, everyone, for an episode that challenges your silence, fuels your compassion, and calls you out to lead with integrity. Is everybody ready? I know I am. Let's go get inspired. All right, everyone. So our very first point for this evening is Abraham speaks up for the innocent. In Genesis 18, Abraham steps into a role that few would dare. He challenges divine judgment with bold humility. He questions whether the righteous will perish alongside the wicked. Abraham's plea isn't just a theological inquiry, it's a moral act, demonstrating that the innocent matter deeply, even in the face of overwhelming sin. His voice becomes a shield for those who cannot defend themselves. In today's world, that is. He reminds us to be advocates for voiceless people that are out there, whether it's in boardrooms, classrooms, or communities. True leadership, folks, is marked with that by the willingness to speak up for those whose innocence may otherwise be, well, let's say, overlooked. And I think that's a very great place for us to start tonight with that first point. And of course, I have more. Point number 2 is a very, very good point. And that point is boldness in the face of power. Imagine for a moment, ladies and gentlemen, standing before our Creator, God, Lord Jesus, and daring to negotiate. That's exactly what Abraham does. He doesn't kowtow to not do anything or cower out. He steps forward respectfully, but firmly. This kind of boldness isn't arrogance, it's conviction. In a culture that often rewards silence and conformity, we're called to emulate Abraham's courage, whether it's confronting unethical practices at work or standing up for your beliefs in tough conversation. This kind of spiritual boldness is what transforms communities. Boldness in leadership isn't about being the loudest, folks. It's about having the courage to say what needs to be said, even when power stands in front of you. Maybe you've been somewhere and person's always said to you, well, if you say something, so help me. It's like they're trying to, how can I say, they're trying to tell you that you shouldn't be who you are. Maybe they're afraid that you're strong. Maybe they're afraid that you're going to change the way things are, right? Maybe. And I think that's an important thing. Very, very important thing. And so when we think about, what's going on in the world, I think a lot of times people don't understand that to be successful doesn't always mean to be quiet. And sometimes the quiet is what gets us ahead, right? So walk softly and, just be aware, be observant. Number 3, persistence and advocacy. Abraham doesn't stop at one request. He returns again and again and again, asking God to spare Sodom if only 50, 45, 40, 30, 20, even just 20 righteous people can be found. This persistence shows that real advocacy is not a one-time thing or act, but a continuous effort. Now, Abraham embodies the spirit of not giving up, even when the odds look, well, pretty grim. In other lives, persistence is the difference between momentary passion and long-lasting impact. Whether you're advocating for social justice, change in your organization, or a friend in need, persistence says, I won't quit until I've done all I can. But you see, some people out there, they quit when they get tired. They quit too early. They quit before they've even tried to lift up a pencil or a pen. They quit when somebody else says, you know what, you can't do it. That's not very good. Number 4, the value of every individual matters. Abraham's negotiations aren't just about numbers, folks. They reveal the sacred value of each individual. He essentially asks, is one life worth saving a city? The answer seems to be a resounding yes. This profound truth calls us to remember, okay? Calls us to remember. You might be asking, what? That people aren't statistics. They're souls in leadership, their relationships, and service. We must see beyond the masses and the value of the one. Whether you're a chief executive officer, a teacher, a parent, how you choose to treat the least among us defines the integrity of your soul and your true leadership. Some people only lead when, you know what, it's convenient for them, or when it's not going to go against possibly losing a friend. Well, I got news for you. If you're worried about that, those people were never your friends to begin with. They're manipulators. Number 5, intercession as responsibility. Abraham didn't have to speak up. He wasn't a citizen of Sodom, but his heart was moved to act. This shows us that the intercession and his conviction stepping in for others is not just a privilege, but it's a responsibility. When we see wrongdoing or injustice, we are called not to turn away, but to stand in the gap. True intercession is more than prayers. It's action, it's sacrifice, and it's the willingness to be uncomfortable for the sake of others. In today's fast-paced world, being an intercessor might mean mentoring a colleague, defending a team member, or even standing up for truth when it's not popular. Number 6, justice tempered with mercy. One of the most beautiful tensions in this passage is between justice and mercy. God's justice demands accountability, but Abraham appeals to God's mercy. What unfolds is a divine willingness to show restraint for the sake of righteousness. This balance is something we all must carry into our own leadership and our personal lives with our own style. Justice without mercy, folks, becomes tyranny. Mercy without justice becomes, well, chaos. Whether you're leading a team or navigating, let's say, personal relationships, learning how to hold both the justice and compassion is essential to building trust. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, making, I'm going to say, wise decisions, right? Making wise decisions. Number 7, a call to speak when silence is easier. Silence is often the easiest path, especially when the stakes are high. But Abraham chose to speak up, and his courage changed the conversation. We are all living in a world where silence can enable harm, and words can bring healing. The story is a call to use our voice, not for noise, but for truth to be known. Each time you choose to speak out, rather than stay silent, you echo Abraham's legacy, whether at a podcast, a board meeting, or a family dinner. Your voice matters, folks. Let's be people who speak not because it's easy, but because it's the right thing to do. Remember I said to you guys that, things that are going to help you grow are all about stuff that's going to be uncomfortable. And we got to practice getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Here's the part of the show I really like. I like the whole show, but I love this part. So I'm going to give you basically a personal lesson from my life to help you learn about basically one for each point tonight. And it's my hope, guys, that this is going to somehow wake up some special path in you that's going to say, you know what? I can do these things too. Right? I can do these things too. Does that make sense? And I know you might say, well, John, this isn't what you think. Okay? And I think sometimes we get, how can I say, confused. Okay? We get confused. And that's okay. And maybe that confusion is what's going to allow us to do some things that are pretty remarkable. I know that you're probably saying right now that, my life's too busy. I don't have time. I get all that. Believe me, that's all there when people don't want to act. We can put up a million excuses to why we don't want to do something, right? A million excuses. But what if just once we could stand up and we could enjoy the feeling of that. Because when we enjoy the feeling, guess what? We're going to do it again. Well, Abraham speaks up for the innocent. There was a time in my serial entrepreneurial life when I saw a colleague being treated unfairly by a superior. It was easy to stay silent and let things unfold, especially when the higher-ups were involved. And you guys know I worked for a government agency before I took JMOR on full-time. It was part-time then, before I even graduated college. And I noticed that they had a way of getting people to just be quiet. If you didn't go along with the flow, they didn't want to hear anything else but their way, because their way was always right. And you know what? It oftentimes wasn't. It hurt people. You know what? It didn't seem to matter. They had all this fluff about, no discrimination, race, religion, orientation. But in the back of their minds, they were hypocrites. They were allowing somebody to get hurt emotionally because of their terrible treatment. But I chose to speak up out of empathy, a sense of responsibility. I reminded myself the leadership of the team's value and advocated for a more just approach. It wasn't a popular move. People didn't like me when I first did it. But it taught me that leadership is often about standing up for those who can't and ensuring that every person, no matter their position, is treated with dignity. Just as Abraham stood up for innocence, we too must protect the vulnerable around us. And I got to tell you, a lot of people did not stand by me when I did this. Okay? Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for the love tonight. Thank you so much. Really do appreciate that. Thank you. But just want to let you know that it is important, really, really important, that you do it regardless of what happens. Now, at the end of this, when I came out smelling like a rose, didn't know how it was going to work, all these people that left my side suddenly flocked back. But I knew these people weren't really truthful to me. They just came back because I looked good. All right? But I think that's a problem for a lot of people. They want to just come whenever it's like a green light. They don't want to be there when you're going through the mud. Right? I always say life has its ups and its downs, and your true friends are going to be with you on the roller coaster, up and down. Boldness in the face of power. I've often found myself in situations where it was easier to conform or stay quiet, especially when facing powerful people, right? And sometimes organizations. I remember a time earlier in my career when I had to push back on a project idea I didn't believe in, even though it was backed by higher management. This was in the government agency. It was uncomfortable to speak my truth, but I did it respectfully. Even though people told me I could get fired, I didn't care. And it led to a much better outcome for everyone. But management, let's just say, still, if they were around, and they're not, they would chastise me for doing that. Of course, they loved what happened with the company, but they didn't like it that I started that movement. They had these really big egos. They were very overinflated. Boldness is not about being brash. It's about having the courage to stand up for what you believe in, what you know is right, no matter who you're up against. Like Abraham, I learned that true leadership requires a mix of conviction and respect for others. Number 3, persistence and advocacy. There have been moments in my life when advocating for a cause or a person felt like an uphill battle. I recall a time when I worked tirelessly on a project that was initially met with resistance and doubt for this government agency. I was tasked with bringing on a new LMS, learning management system. I did the research. I knew a lot about learning management systems, but I wasn't familiar with them in response to ESL, English as a second language. And so I went to some different conventions. I did the research, got the quotes. And despite the setbacks, I kept pushing, refining, and representing my ideas to the team. I knew that they had the vendor they wanted, and I knew they were trying to do things cheap. And I knew they also wanted to stay with a vendor we were working with. But to be honest with you, the vendor we were working with really couldn't shine anybody's shoes. So I kept pushing, refining, and representing my ideas to the team. And I told the teachers that unfortunately, management hasn't approved this. This is the solution you guys need. I'll provide you all the information. And this is why you need to tell them that you want it. I'm going to explain to you, and you can tell me yourself what you like. But I'm going to explain to you why I'm going with this one and why not the other one. They want me to stay with the current vendor because they're getting some good deals from them for buying other things that they need. And I think that's a big problem. Abraham's persistence in Genesis reminds me that true change requires patience and, well, resilience. If I had given up halfway down the road, even though I'm not with them anymore, they would have missed out on a big breakthrough. I learned that persistence, even in the face of discouragement, can eventually lead to the victory of what's right. 6 months before I decided to leave the organization, I was very proud to know that we had one of the top LMS systems implemented in our state. We were able to help more people pass their tests, learn the languages well, and give us tools so that the teachers knew where the students were excelling and where they were weak and what they had to maybe change their curriculum to be. We never had those kind of tools before. The value of every individual. Everybody has a value. In my leadership roles, I've had the privilege of working with a diverse range of people, from the CEOs like myself to entry-level employees. One lesson that's been pivotal for me is the understanding that every person's contribution, well, it matters. There was a project I once led where a quiet, often overlooked team member came up with an idea that ended up saving us time and money. I realized then that valuing each individual, regardless of their title or role, is essential. Everyone's a resource, but more importantly, everybody is a person. Just like Abraham's negotiation to save even a few people in Sodom, we must never forget that every life and every contribution has a value, even if somebody else doesn't see it. It might be your job and your purpose to point that out to other people. Intercession as a responsibility. I often found myself in situations where someone needed help, even when I wasn't directly involved. Once a colleague was going through a personal crisis. And though it wasn't my issue, I felt compelled to step in. I offered support, whether through listening, advising, or just being there for them. Abraham didn't have to intercede for Sodom, but his compassion drove him to act, and to act now. Not 2 days from now, not a week from now, not a month from now, not a year from now. This taught me that sometimes intercession requires us to go beyond what's comfortable or expected. And it's our duty to offer help when others are in need, even though we might feel like just staying under the covers and keeping warm, or just staying out of the loop. Justice tempered with mercy. In a leadership position that I was still in, I've had to make decisions that weighed heavily on my sense of justice. This is very key every day as a keynote speaker. But I learned early on that justice without mercy can be harsh and unyielding. I recall a time when I had to address an employee's mistake. And while the situation called for some consequences, I chose to offer guidance and a chance for them to be redeemed rather than immediate punishment. Abraham's plea for mercy, even for a few righteous people, reminded me that a true leader knows how to balance accountability with compassion, creating an environment of trust and growth. A call to speak when silence is easier. Silence can often feel like the easier option, especially when confronting tough issues or dealing with difficult people. When you're faced with a path, you just take the easier one because you don't want challenges. I recall a situation where a colleague's unethical behavior was being ignored by others. It would have been much easier to stay silent, but I chose to speak up. While it was uncomfortable and challenging, my words led to a change that benefited the entire team. This was also at the government agency. So when you documented things, they had to respond. Like Abraham, sometimes the right thing to do is to speak up, even when, let's just say, it's easier to remain silent. This lesson reinforced that leadership is all about doing what's right, even when it's tough. I am hoping that these stories resonated with you, at least one of them. And if they did, that it would give you some real reason to change your action, to be a better person, to help those that can't help themselves. These personal stories reflect timeless principles found in Abraham's intercession. Hopefully, you'll see, reminding us that leadership is not about a position, but about how we respond to the challenges and the opportunities before us. I've told you guys before, when I fly on the airline and I leave the plane, right after COVID, there were people on the plane cleaning the plane and make sure everything was good. Since that day, I decided to be kind. And I would always wish the pilot and the stewardess and stewards, good day. But now I wish the people on the plane that clean it well, and even the people on the jetway that work for the airlines, and every single person, you know what they do? They respond back with, thank you, and you too. You might say, John, I don't have time for that. You don't have time for a couple seconds of kindness. I might have just made that person's day by just offering an olive branch to them. What lessons, ladies and gentlemen, from your own life have shaped the way you lead today? I'm going to do something I usually don't do. I'm going to encourage you to tag back on this post, this show, and comment what lesson from your own life has shaped the way you lead today. And I think that's a very, very important point. We got a lot to share this week. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. Do check out BelieveMeAchieve.com for more of my amazing, inspiring creations. Don't forget to comment back and let me know what leadership lesson you learned. Be well, everyone.